Hi guys, Paul Richardson here, Haven Earth on the road. I'm here in Switzerland with Jorgen Hempel from Hemp Ecosystems and also with Tony Laderick as well, who's out of shot eating donuts. I want to introduce you to Jorgen. I've had the pleasure of being here with these guys for about 10 days and I've cried, I've laughed, I've slept little, I've slept a lot, and I've learned a lot here from Jorgen and Jorgen's wisdom of being in the industry, of working with hemp for over 25 years. And I won't say too much because I want Jorgen to tell the story more than me, because he's much more interested than I am, for one thing. And I think it'll be interesting for you to hear what he has to say. What made you come to the hemp industry?
I lived in France for a number of years and did renovation of historical monuments. And one day a man knocked on the door of my property. He was a Frenchman with a big beard and a big hat on his head.
A wizard?
And yeah, more or less. But he took a little piece of wood and showed it to me, and he said, this piece is the stem of the cannabis plant, which people throw away today. They cannot use it. But I tell you, he said, this is going to be the most important building material ever discovered since the Romans built Rome. And you have to be careful about believing in all kind of people that come and tell you all kind of stories. But I don't know, I got fascinated with him and the young people that I was working with and I was training in renovation of historical monuments. They were very fascinated by this, and we started then getting these herds from the cannabis plant. So they take the fibers away and everything else, and you just get the herd, the wood of the thing. And this man, he said, I have studied this, and I have discovered that, number one, that the stem of the cannabis plant contains up to 70% silica, silicium, sand, and it contains, it holds thousands of little voids, little holes. So this material cannot burn and it cannot rot. And he said that is already more than halfway to an excellent building material.
Wow.
And everybody said he must be crazy. And he moved into my house, and I gave him a place to lodge, to make a story not too long, with his 2 wives and his little daughter, that I loved. And he stayed with me for about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And he worked with our young people, hanging on the mixing machines and mixing hemp herds with water and with lime and with crushed brick and all kind of other materials, which all came from the materials that the Romans used to build Rome. And so it was not taken out of modern industry, it was really taken out of history books. And we managed to get this thing on the wall. And we discovered, to our great surprise, that it dried up nicely, it became hard as stone, it regulated humidity. You know, in old castles, the humidity is something absolutely enormous. But suddenly we found that this material was able to absorb and take up and give away humidity, which, you know, when we speak about indoor climate, cold is not a problem. You can always put on another sweater. Warm is not a problem. We can take off the sweater. But humidity is our biggest enemy. Because we cannot regulate it. We can only find out maybe how the ancestors did it, because they knew how to do it. We don't. We are becoming so so hypnotized by industry and technique and so on that the only thing we can do is to put in ventilation and air conditioning and so on,
buy
which
more
is
machines.
very, very bad for our health.
And our wallet.
And everybody knows
wallet,
that.
yeah.
And nobody seemed to do very much about it. But we can live in houses like you're sitting in my house now. We have no ventilation. We are sitting here. The heating system is not working. We have a minus degrees outside. And today is sunny, but we have minus degrees outside. And in here we have 19 degrees, 18, 19 degrees centigrades, which is a very nice temperature to live in.
Yeah.
So basically, that was how the hemp story started. And we were basically the first to start doing it on site. Building new houses, renovating houses, and this is 25 years ago now.
Wow.
But it was a long trip, and it was a difficult one because it was very expensive, and it was sometimes also difficult to handle. We had to learn a lot about how to combine the building and the renovation with this material with full respect for what goes on outside, which we cannot regulate. So we learned a lot, and we managed to, let's say, really develop a product which was, under modern circumstances, easy to handle. I have to add one thing which is important because of what is going to follow in a minute, that when it worked so well, when we were able to heat places or keep places warm and without humidity in such an easy way, we didn't know why. And we had no way to do it. We had no way to find out because nobody knew about hemp 25 years ago as a building material.
So you like reverse engineered it to like we're gonna find out.
I don't know. I think that when you want to develop something, when you want to do something, the first thing you have to do is to use your imagination. And then number two is that you should not be afraid of making experience.
Yeah.
Even if it sometimes is going to be the wrong track or being waste of time, but one day it will work. And from the experience that you are gaining knowledge.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The knowledge you gain is what you can, I would say, with good conscience, put on the market. Because you know what you're doing.
Right.
And compare that to what we see in modern industry today, I'm afraid to say that we are not doing the right thing.
Yeah. No, marketing is taken over actually the quality. Just,
yes.
you can say anything.
What is taking over, we can talk again about a little later. So I came back to Switzerland and took for the third time, I took my retirement. It didn't work very well. And then I started thinking about how to make hemp construction and renovation much more streamlined and much more effective. So we developed our own mixing machine. We developed products which were functioning better. But the big change was that we started using hydrated lime instead of hydraulic lime. I will not at this moment go into the details on what is one, but hydrated lime is pure lime coming straight out of nature, being processed very easy, made into powder, and then once you have it as a building material, you add water, you add then the hemp, and you get a material which starts living. In other words, it produces what you call carbonation, and the carbonation is something that goes on, even for years and years, and as the carbonation goes on, you get a small increase in heat, and you take up CO2. Now, when I discovered this, I didn't invent it, but I discovered this question of CO2, it came to my mind that 30 years ago, people didn't even know what CO2 was. Now, today, we are very much concerned with CO2. Every one of us, all the billion of people are all concerned with CO2 right now, because it has become one of the most important enemies with which we are confronted today. So, we were able to take up CO2. Indoor climate suddenly became much more healthy. Nice breathing like you have in this house now. You have an air like this if you were in the mountains, even if we are inside, polluting, all of us of course. But the CO2 effect is here, and it has a very important effect on our health. We'll come back to that a little later
like
again.
A home as a filter.
Yes. So what we did was we had one big problem, that is that hydrated lime, not hydraulic. Hydraulic is already cement, and it acts like cement, exactly like cement. You put it in water and it's dead. This continues to live. And the fact that we were taking up CO2 was a wonderful thing to discover, but the thing was that the thing was curing, getting hard over 4 to 6 months. It was much too long, so we went back to, let's call the Roman recipes, and we discovered how we could reduce the curing time and get a material which after 2-3 days, it's already hard enough to work with.
Yeah, so what a discussion we had. Mostly I got to listen, which is nice because I can talk too much sometimes about nothing. So it's nice to have somebody who knows what they're talking about. I just want to say deepest gratitude to Jorgen for giving his time to share this. Thanks. Thanks for having me here, which I'll obviously thank you for off camera, but you know, just to let people know that I've been really welcomed by Jorgen and the Hempel, I was going to say the Hempel team, but the Hempel team too, but also the Hemp Ecosystems team and Tony, who I'll also make an interview for to let you know a little bit about Tony and why he's doing what he's doing and the great stuff we have some plans for. But I just want to wrap up with Jorgen, and if you have one last inspiring thing to say, then say it now. If not, then if you well, I guess we're coming. We're coming to help.
I run not to miss the train. If I should finish off saying one thing, I said that I am really looking forward to see the coast of America again.
Yes, exactly. Great. Thanks, guys, and chat soon. From Hemp Ecosystems in Switzerland and Haven Earth Center on the road. Much gratitude and see you soon.